So about the keep the fire burning thing. So I think when we're talking about experience the presence of God, I mean, what we're doing is we're seeing Jesus for who he is. That's at the end of the day what we're talking about. We're being captivated by his beauty. We're drawing closer to him, coming nearer to him. And for me, I've been recognizing his forgiveness over my life more and more. And I think part of keeping that fire burning, kind of to use that illustration of the altar, is the ashes of yesterday can put out today's fire. And one thing that I've been experiencing a lot of is through seeing his, I'm just going to be real transparent, is through seeing his forgiveness over my life is my need to forgive others, that I cannot make it right with them. Like, I think that we can find ourselves experiencing pain and experiencing hurt, and as a result, respond to that, not even intentionally, but when we allow those ashes from the past to stay on the altar, that fire grows dim pretty quick. And so, we've got heal, restore. And when we think of restoration, oftentimes we think of it in relationship, that I can talk to you and we can work through it. But what about the people that you can't talk to and work through it with? Like, either it's their choice that they won't talk to you, or it's, it just seems to be impossible. And so I think that I've been having this heightened awareness of my responsibility to forgive people regardless of what they've done to me in the past. And I think with the last couple of years, everybody in this room, I'm sure, to some capacity or another, has experienced broken relationship. There's been just an increase of it as a result of COVID, the political climate that we're in. Their division's a really easy thing to find yourself in. And we can either decide to shut those areas down in our lives, to, not feel that pain again, or we can decide to forgive, which means they don't deserve it. And so forgiveness, the reality is that I don't deserve heaven on my own. I don't deserve eternity with the Father. There's nothing that I've done, nothing that I can ever do to deserve that. But he's extended his hand in forgiveness to me. He sacrificed his life for me. And to be like Jesus isn't to just heal the sick, to raise the dead, but it's to forgive people that don't deserve it, that don't ask for it, that are still thinking that they are, whatever pain that they are in, people still deserve our forgiveness because it's what he's done for us. And so I think as a part of this fire, for me, I noticed that one of the big things that could hold it back is allowing those ashes from the past season to stay on the altar. And so I've been practicing as people come to mind, like, all right, I want to call this person, I can't, or I try and they don't answer, but I can still forgive before the throne. I can still bring them to Jesus and say, hey, this is not restored, but I know real restoration looks like me forgiving and moving on. And so, I just want to invite everybody in this room to that same place. Like, if there has been broken relationship, if there's been people that have hurt you, you don't have to wait for them to come back to forgive. Like, you don't get to put prerequisites on people's forgiveness. Their behavior doesn't dictate whether or not it's our responsibility to forgive. And I think that as we continue to draw closer, continue to move further in, there are going to be those pains and those hurts that get exposed, like we're saying. Like, as the light's shining, some of that stuff's going to become more real, that you feel like has been dealt with. But as we get closer to Jesus and see him for who he truly is, we get to see our imperfections even more and more, which includes our pain and our hurt from our past. It even includes the ways that we've worshiped him in the past, the ways that we've related to him. The wood, I think it was Dr. Leon that maybe said this, but it was yesterday's sacrifice. It wasn't a bad thing, even the ashes. The way that I worshiped him yesterday may not be the thing, like, I have to get rid of that and start it over again today. It's got to be a current relationship with Jesus. Yesterday's sacrifice is today's fire quencher, like, if I don't get rid of it. And the Jews found themselves in that trap. they had an idea of what Jesus was supposed to look like when he came, and they couldn't wrap their minds around who he actually was. And if we're trying to relate to God based on what he did for us yesterday, but he's trying to do something new, we're going to find ourselves with ashes putting out the fire. Because we're not going to be able to see what he's actually doing, because that's not how he moves. This is not how he moved the last time, or this is, I know him this way. We need to be able to, discover in the Word, biblically. I'm not saying that we go and seek after some weird experience, but we need to be able to see Jesus for who he is as he shows more of him, and not put him in a box in the ways that he wants to move. If you were here Saturday night and you saw people laughing, it's like, well, that's not, Jesus. Why don't you tell him that and see what he says? And, I think that we need to have our minds kind of bent a little bit and opened up to being able to experience what the God of the universe actually is capable of.